So I have been compiling a list. Of course, this is just a loose list of things we can work on. So one thing we can work on is remove the browse texture until the menu is open. So what does that mean? That means that when you are in 2D and you go to a space, you will see a menu down here. This is actually a full screen texture, and it's a single full screen texture. And as soon as we enter the space, I'm rendering the full screen texture, which it picks up the mouse position, and so we can have this thing. Right? Close that. But in
So
VR,
are you sharing your screen? Because I
oh,
can't see you.
thanks for telling me. I thought I was.
Same thing.
Why didn't you guys say anything? Okay, let me do screens, share screen, better text readability. Okay, can you see my screen now? Yes, you can?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so
Yeah.
here's a list of things we can work on. We can work on this thing, remove brow texture when menu is open, make primitives a scrollable list. Okay, so let me describe what this is first. Remove browse texture. So what is the browse texture? So there is no browse texture in 2D mode because we use a full screen texture. But in VR, I need to create two textures. And the reason for that is because I wait for the left-hand controller to be ready. So this here is the left-hand controller. And if we rotate this, you see how it has like two squares on it? This is the menu and mute button, and then this is the browse texture. But we don't actually need the browse texture unless we have clicked on this thing that says menu. Then we can create it and put stuff on it. So we can make that improvement. So we don't need to have this until we click on this. And if we click off of it or close it, then we can close this thing. That's a minor improvement that we can do. Or we can make primitives a scrollable list, which currently is a kind of bug. And what do I mean by that is, let me exit this thing. We have this menu, and I don't know if I told you guys last time, I added logs, which is pretty cool. So any console logs will come in here. Because remember last time the audio was cutting out when we were in Agora? So I'm hoping we can test again soon, and if the audio cuts out, then I can look in here and see if there was any errors or anything like that. But what I wanted to show is primitives is not using that scrollable list, but logs is. See how there's a scroll bar here? This is actually a scrollable list. And what's cool is that I can add new logs to it very easily. So if I say console.log, let's say 123, that's a string that's up here, and or console.log, I think it will just work with this too, right? Yeah. So you take pretty much and you can see it without in VR. So even without a computer, any kind of logs that we're getting here should show up in here, including I think warn. Yeah, it's not highlighted, but it does become appended or prepended to the texture. And this is scrollable. So I think I keep maybe 100 latest messages in here. And so the primitives, however, is getting cut off at the top. And so we can't quite click on the bottom one. So that's an improvement that we could do there. So I figure these are probably two candidates that we can work on in this remaining 40 minutes or so. So which one would you guys like to work on?
The scrollable list.
Okay, the scrollable list. All right. So let's go look at the code. All right, so we have the point of entry for the menu starts at menu manager. Menu manager creates the full screen GUI and the textures. And then, when you click on menu, it will open the menu and it will render the stuff into the browse texture, and it delegates that into a couple of functions down here. So when you're saying primitives, it actually loads this one. So we only need to work in here, menu page primitives. So we'll look in here. Now this thing, so let's pin this. So primitives creates this thing, which is kind of a div with more options, which is a list of a link to go back to the main, and then primitive options, which is a function here that loops through these guys, and then each one of those is a link with a callback that will send a message to go add that entity. Now let's take a look at what logs does. So logs is this thing. So it's a div, okay, but with a texture with a pre, and then the content of get logs, which is fetching stuff from get logs creates a text block, and I have a log manager which keeps track of 100 recent logs. So I think the ability to scroll might come from this pre thing that I made. So let's look at that. So pre creates, yes, it creates a GUI scroll viewer. So I think we can just use pre with some data around it. So we'll throw pre around, and this is just a single texture. I think get logs just returns a single thing. Well, let's give it a try. So if we go to primitives, we can maybe return, let's see, div primitives container, and the options was a, and then this prim options, and this, okay, this returned a map of things. So I'm wondering what will happen if I just turn this. So div takes a list of children and it stacks them vertically. At least this syntactical sugar thing that I did. So we could just say this is the second child, prim options, and so what's this deal here? Argument is not a parameter. Oh, just okay, we'll give back one thing. So we'll have this. Here's a map. Frame options. make a new function. This scrollable primitive options. So scrollable primitive options needs to return that pre thing. So let's import that, which it's here. So this thing takes some props, so it can have a name and a children. So how do we do it in logs? It was just, yeah, name and then some children. So name is scrollable prim options, and then children, which can be an array with this prim options. Does that work? Maybe just this. So it takes this, which is an array of links, passes them as children. The ... just spreads them out as different arguments, which is how this function takes children. It can take a list. A spread argument means it will, inside the function, it'll be an array, but passing it to the function is comma separated arguments. And this will put a pre around it, which makes it scrollable, I think. And so now this, okay, so this needs ... because it needs each one of these as children. So let's see what happens here. So we come over here, primitives. Looks like we have a scrollable section here. So if I click on this, it still works. Cone, sphere. I think my sphere is inside of it. I come back, edit, move this over. Has my sphere there? There's my sphere. Cool. Okay. So we concluded that. Git commit add scrollable GUI to primitives. Okay. We don't have a way of deleting primitives. So we can add them to the origin, but maybe we can add a menu to delete them. I'm thinking maybe we can add a delete section under here, and then once you're in delete mode, anything you click on can be deleted. We also don't have the color that we had before, so we can't change the color here. So those are two things. So okay, remove, make primitives a scrollable list. Okay, so we did that. Now we can do a delete menu or change color menu.
You won't be able to attach delete to the objects.
Attach
like,
what? Like a gizmo?
Like a cross or something. I don't know. Like, you know how you close windows or delete things.
But how would you know where the cross is?
I don't know. I'm just asking. Like, you know how to move around things, right? Like, you know how to drag it. Like, why is it that you cannot? It doesn't have a like just a get rid of like a delete thing somewhere.
You're saying like a gizmo overlay for deleting, right?
Right, like the way you're editing the objects. It's either that or some motion that you can sort of like double clicking it, for example, like it means delete or something. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Double click and delete, double click, delete.
Something along those lines. So in VR, what would it be though? Like you cannot really double click.
Right. You can. You can. You double shoot it.
Oh, double shoot. Okay. All right. Something.
That might be better than nothing. Okay, let's start with that, and we can improve this later. Um, so why don't we add it to the edit ability? So in menu manager, whoops, in menu manager, we had this toggle here. Oh, it's in main actually. Main, not menu manager. Main renders the edit element toggle. So in here we create a toggle, and then when you toggle it, we send a message to say we're editing true or false. And so we could bind something on that. Edit element. And so it has nothing to do with the GUI container. We don't need the container to be showing up. So we could listen for this inside I guess inside the scene manager or the collaborative edit manager. Yeah, let's put it in collaborative editing. Collaborative edit manager. Okay, so this is instantiated once, and what it does is it listens to that on-off message. So if you're saying true, I'm editing, this turns on, false, this turns off, which in turn hides the gizmos. So in here, if you're editing true, I want to add a listener to double click. So this scene on pointer pointer down, pointer move, pointer on pointer observable. What does that mean? Add. Oh, the pointer is observable. On. Is there anything? Click point. That's interesting. So the scene can't do like a double click. It's individual objects that can do that.
So every time you create a new object, you have to attach the behavior to it. Huh. It's interesting that it doesn't come with it.
Yeah, let's see. So if we have a scene, and then let's grab one of the meshes. So get meshes, get debug layer, show. Here, okay, we'll pull this up, and I can't tell which cone is which one. Let's say this one. Okay, hide. Okay, so this is actually this one. So if we're talking about that cone, and what did I want to check on? Oh yeah, I wanted to see if it could receive something. So let's say mesh equals scene get mesh by name. The name is cone underscore HANQRG. Okay, whoops, didn't find it. Okay, mesh by name cone HANQRG. Okay, so mesh on pointer mesh observable on, can't see, on collide on mesh ready. Let's go read some docs. Babylon JS double click. Okay, on double pick. Take a look at this. Oops. Take a look at that. So these have targets though. So these are like when you're on pick, triggers on pointer over. So I think these are good for interactions if you want to know if somebody clicked a particular thing. But right now we want to know on the scene if you kind of clicked over it. I guess we can build our own double click. We'll probably need some observables for this. So let's do it this way. So create scene level double pick observable. Okay. So first we need to observe one click, which we can do. So let's create an observable in our message bus. So I kind of separated these out into kind of local events, incoming events, outgoing events. I'm still not too happy with this, but we can put it here for now. Let's say scene pick event is a subject of any, I don't know what the type is. And then in here, I'll say scene pick event is a new subject. And if you remember, this is just, you can stick a value into it and you can observe values out of it. So it's almost like a channel in Go. So now in the scene, so maybe we'll put this into scene manager. We can utilize this in the create scene method. Once the scene is available, maybe we'll just add an observer here. So this scene on pointer down or on pointer pick will send a message. So this function, so we need to provide a callback, which is a function I define, which will take the event and pick info and we'll just pass it through to signal hub, the thing we just created, scene pick event next. So we'll just push a value into there. I'm going to start, I think, changing all of the camel case stuff to underscore eventually, because the mixed cases between JavaScript and Elixir kind of bugs me when you pass values back and forth. All right, so we have this, and so we're pushing values in. And just to test this, let's also listen for it and just console log a message out. So signal hub, observables, scene, pick event, and then we'll subscribe to it, and value, and we'll console log I see a pick event, and here's the value. So coming back into the scene, we'll clear this. So if I'm clicking this, I see a pick event. There's a pointer event, pick info E. So if I click twice, I see individual pick events, but I want to create a new kind of event called a double click event. So I think we can take this and check the timestamps on it. So for every scene pick event, we can, well, let me see if there's prior work here. Maybe there's something we can observe. rxjs detect double click. So you could listen, so you could buffer and debounce, filter.
You know all of that? Like that mouse.pipe and all that syntax?
Yeah, this is just a stream of data, and then these are operations. Pipe means you're going to transform this data, and then there's all kinds of operations. So you could say debounce time.
See.
And I think that it will just only allow things that pass in within 250 milliseconds, I think. Either include or reject. I forget what it means. And then, so buffer, and then map means just changing the value. So it's just getting the length of the list. Oh, okay. List length buffer. Oh, buffer is a new one. I haven't used buffer. It must be keeping track of them. So we created like a new kind of observable. Mouse. What is mouse? Mouse is an event from click. So let's look at rxjs debounce time. Emits a notification from the source observable only after a particular time span has passed without another source emission. So it actually it restricts values. So if you clicked faster than 250 milliseconds, it wouldn't allow you to put in data. Okay. Okay, what does buffer do? rxjs buffer. I think it just accumulates values, right? Buffers the source observable values until closing notifier emits. Buffer, an observable that signals the buffer to be emitted on the emitted. So if you get ABC and then a buffer event, you'll get ABC coming out. So internal events buffer the clicks, and then you get all of these clicks coming out. I don't get it. Here's a signal that emits once a second. Internal events, and then pipe, and you buffer clicks. Buffered subscribe. Oh, it's buffering them right now. And when I click, that's when it empties the buffer. Oh, so in that case, they're emitting a message that will clear the buffer if you click within 250 milliseconds. Is that right? I'm a little bit confused about what this is, but let's try this code. Okay, so we have this coming in. So if we said a buffer is equal to signal hub observables scene pick event pipe, and we'll just debounce time 250 millisecond. Let's do a quick fix on this. Okay, that's the buffer. So this would be a signal that can't come in faster than 250 millisecond. And then we'll create a click. Okay, const click is signal observables scene pick event, and pipe this one and buffer the with a stopping condition, which is that. We'll do a quick fix on this. Import that. So if we just did this, what would we get here? So subscribe, we'll just say something, console.log post buffer stuff. And let's just comment this stuff out. So if I click, let me clear this, click, 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 3, click, 4, 5. The clicks come through, but they're a little late. It's 250 milliseconds late. So it's like delayed clicking. Interesting, okay. Okay, then what did they do? Then they mapped over the value's length. Okay, it's because the buffer is going to have multiple values in it, right? So we're going to map over a list and just return list length. Do a quick fix on this. And with the value here, let's just console log this value. So 1, 2, and get 3, 5, 6. Okay, so it'll get all the clicks it can get within the 250 millisecond time, and then finally, if it's 2, okay, so filter, we only want those where x is 2. Then this should be only emitting those double clicks, I think. So let me clear here. So I get double click, single click, nothing, single click, nothing, triple click, nothing, double click. Okay. That's interesting. Okay, so it has to wait some extra time in order to get that double click, huh? I mean, there's some other implementations here. Double click. Yeah, this is maybe how I would have done it, is get the timestamps between it. Yeah, this will fire directly after X clicks instead of waiting for the time to run out, which I like better. I don't like waiting around. So you get the click, then you grab the date, and then you do a buffer count, click count. What is buffer count? Click count is 5. Timestamp is an array, the length of click count containing the last added timestamps. Then you filter, return timestamps where get time minus times. Okay, so you're within 2 seconds. What is buffer count? rxjs buffer count. Buffers a number of values from the source observable by buffer size and emits the buffer and clears it and starts a new buffer each start buffer every X amount of values. So if you say buffer count buffers a number of values from the sources by buffer size, then emits the buffer and clears it. If start buffer every buffer count. Okay, from event click pipe buffer count, it will emit the buffer count and then subscribe that. I think this will be better, right? So click, click, click. How come there's nothing? Click, 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 click. Okay, so it won't emit anything until the buffer is full. So the first buffer, hold on. The first buffer is 1. It waits for a second buffer before it puts anything out. Okay. So nothing, something. Nothing, something. Interesting. Okay. And therefore, if I have timestamps, then I will throw it away unless the two timestamps are very close to each other, right? Okay, so let's do this instead. So we simply map it into this and then filter only when the timestamps are close. Okay, this is a pretty good implementation of double click. I'll get rid of this. Paste the sample code. Okay, so we're listening to signal hub, observables, scene, pick event, and we're going to pipe this into a map. Basically, we don't care what the data is in there. We want the timestamp. So just give me new date, get time, which is fine. And so if I just did this and I take the value and console log the value, then over here, clicking, we're getting timestamps. Okay, it's a seconds, milliseconds since epoch or something. Now what? Okay, then we buffer the count. So buffer count. Two. Can I find? Okay, import this. Okay, so I should only get a value when the buffer reaches 2. So nothing here, something here. Something, nothing. Yep, okay. Now I just need to subtract one from the other, and I need a value. So I'm going to filter and filter on of something which is 1, then 2. And I want to return a true if, first of all, which one's bigger and which one's smaller? Let's see. Let's look here. The second one is bigger. So let's return, hold on, before I do this, let's return one, 2, and return 2 minus 1. So 1 click, second click, a second, 1.3 seconds, double click, 1 double click, yeah, I think 250. So we want to say that the value that we pass through is that 2 minus 1 is greater or less than or equal to 250. Then we'll allow it through. And then, so this is a double click. So this becomes const double pick. And now I think we need to put this on Signal Hub though. So yeah, we should probably put that there. So we can go Signal Hub. Let's add double click or scene double pick event. You know what? We lost some information though because our map only contains date, so it's going to just say that it happened. But we actually need the picking information, so we're not totally there yet. But we can do a new subject string here. So instead of doing this, we could do this. We can't define it while we're defining this object. This is part of why I don't like this that much. I'll have to do something like this, and then Signal Hub observables scene double pick event equals this, I think. Oh, it's not a subject then. This is not a subject. This is just an observable. And then quick fix. Whoops. Ah! Quick update import from rxjs. Coming back to the delete thing, which is where, oh yeah, collaborative editing. We wanted to say when this is on, then we can add a new observer that listens to Signal Hub observables scene double pick event, and then we can delete something, but we don't actually know what to delete at this point. But it was here that I could subscribe and then add some logic to delete this. So right now I'm just putting out the message. So if I double click this, nothing happens, no message comes out. But if I go in here and I go edit, now double click, you see this, it says delete this thing. Of course, I don't know what to delete, so we've got to modify the message. Is that we have to pass along some of the information here, so we can't just map, or we want to take the value that it has and then map it into time, which is this, and then value, which is the value. And then when we check the time, we're getting 2.time minus 1.time. Is that right? Time doesn't exist on void. Oh, we're gonna need to return this then. Got that, and then let's put back the second value. So we're filtering the value through. Let's map it again, in which case we have 1 and 2. Let's just return 2. So now, when we want to double click something, we can put the value out. So where are we? Collaborative editing. Let's delete this thing, and the thing is value. So if we click on, turn this on, double click, delete this thing, we had time. Why do we still have time? Oh, we only want the value part. So back to Signal Hub, we only want 2.value. Yeah. So this should give us a mesh name, I think. Edit, double click, delete this thing, pick info, picked mesh. I think that gives us there. Okay, so collaborative editing. So if value dot pick info dot picked mesh then value dot picked info picked mesh disposed. We're going to need to send it across the channel in order for other people to delete it. Otherwise, you're just deleting your own copy, but let's try it. So double click. Whoops. Double click. Oh, it's gone. Double click. These constructs get in the way. Double click. Oh, okay. I have to shift my mouse a little bit because I think something's blocking. So it kind of works. Or I might just not be double clicking fast enough. Yeah, interesting. Clicking that doesn't work.
Can you delete the ground?
I should be able to. But I think there's like something in the way.
Oh.
Or there's no picked mesh. It could be the... Yeah, I'm not sure it's a great API. But it should work in VR. So that double click. Okay, kinda. We're getting there. What do you guys think?
That was pretty nice, and like it's still weird that you have to build your own double pick signal.
Yeah. I guess they just didn't make one for that.
Are there any other unique signals that we can use just for deleting? Like instead of double click, I don't know. Like what else? What else is there?
All of the Oculus hand controls are available. So I mapped all of them into some signals. So in the XR manager, this thing instantiates. I create signals out of all of these things. So we get a signal of trigger, squeeze, button. So trigger is the gun. The squeeze is the grip. And button is I think button is A or B or X or Y. And then there's also joystick. So we could theoretically map these and then just using rxjs find some combination. So that
It
is
has
another
to it
possibility.
has to work without VR too, right? Like you want people to be able to edit.
Right. We want people to be able to edit with this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing is fine. It's like in the middle of the object and it's an overlay. So maybe we could do something. It's an overlay, which means it's always on top. So that's why you see this, even though like you see through it. You can see the whole circle of it and behind it.
Mm.
So maybe we could make it like a little X thing wherever this thing is. And then you just it's always facing you. That might be better than the double click
Yeah.
thing. Anyway, it's 8.
All right.
All right,
Okay.
Cool, Coleman.
cool. I'll stop the recording.